up on CMI, Tony Stewart's hard-driving style took him to the top of the racing world. But while he captured checkered flags and titles, Stewart didn't always win over fans or his fellow drivers. Until now.
Can you really let it go when a guy just does something?
I guess I just got to the point where I got tired of fighting the fight.
NASCAR's bad boy joins Chris Myers and explains why he's changed his antisocial ways, tells what it's like to have a football coach for a boss, says why he wants to beat Jeff Gordon so bad, and admits that dealing with danger is just another part of his job.
Every day when we get in a race car, that may be the last day that we're on this earth.
Find out what drives NASCAR's most controversial personality right now on CMI, the Chris Myers Interview.
Hi, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. He's the guy to chase in the chase for the Nextel Cup Championship, former NASCAR points champion in 2002. A pleasure to have in the Home Depot, the 20 car, Tony Stewart with us again. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
How does this year compare for you to the year if you relate it back to when you did win the championship?
Definitely a much more relaxing year. I mean, we don't have near the dramas this year that we had in 2002. And everybody's having more fun. I mean, we sat down at the end of the year and said, we need to get back to doing this for the reasons that we all started. Never mind contracts, never mind hassles of day-to-day side of it. Just get back to having fun and doing it for the right reasons. So, that's the attitude the whole team's had this year. We're, even on bad days, we're joking around, we're having fun with each other. We're still taking it serious, obviously, but we take a bad day, and instead of it just being a dramatically bad day for all of us when we go home, when the day's over, we put it behind us and we go on.
Joe Gibbs, not as present, but still around more than we may know, right? I mean, the coach and who heads the racing team. What's that like compared to the year you won the championship with his presence?
Obviously, he's not around near as much as he used to be, but he's only a phone call away, and that's the great thing about Joe is that even though he's very busy with football, I mean, if there's something that's on your mind that you need to talk to him about, all you have to do is pick up the phone and he's there. So even though he's physically not in front of you, week in and week out, he's still there. Did
he relate to you in did he ever use comparisons about football players or football games or plays? I know you're a football fan, you're a Colts fan, which we'll get to, but did he use that a lot, or has he over the years?
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime we've had our tough times with me and things that I've done, he's still always said, well, you're still an angel compared to some of the guys I had to deal with. So it's always made you feel better, but at the same time, it definitely he's compared to two. I mean, obviously, his love for racing and football have intertwined quite a bit. So, I'm sure when he's over there on that side, on the football side, he's talking about the racing at the same time also.
Well, and some people relate the crew chief, in a sense, to a coach. I mean, Joe Gibbs is an owner and a coach for the Redskins. But if you were a quarterback, and the driver could be the quarterback if you relate the sports, if you were a quarterback, what kind of quarterback or what name of a quarterback would you relate to most?
Probably Brett Favre. He's a guy that's just a take charge guy, and there's been times when I've not been the leader of the team, but I feel like this year I've been a lot better leader as far as keeping our guys pumped up when we've had bad days, and when we've had good days, making sure that they knew that they were an important part of that and the most important part of it. So I guess I'd like to think I was more like him.
People often ask me, is it more the driver or more the car? You're a driver who sits in the car. I know you have to have both to have success, but help us understand that. Can a great driver win with an average car, or can a so-so driver still survive with a great car?
The car is probably more important than the driver at this level, at this point. If it's a 10th place car, you might be able to take a great driver and get it to 8th or 7th, but it's still not going to be a winning car. Where if you've got a great car and you don't have the right driver, you're not going to win either, but it's going to help that driver out quite a bit. So, it's still, the equation's still big, but you can't do one without the other. I mean, you have to have a driver that can win races, and you have to have a car that can win races. From a driver's standpoint, I can only drive that car as fast as it's going to go. And sometimes I can make it do things that it doesn't want to do, but a lot of times when you are doing that, that's when you're putting yourself at risk.
Or handle it when things aren't going as normally, right, as they should be. Recovering, guiding it through that. You've won pretty much at every level. I can't even. I mean, you've won in divisions that people may not even be aware of, 8 or 9 different ones, and of course at the highest level. And now you actually bought a racetrack, right? Recently, it was in Ohio.
Bought Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio.
Okay, and that's a place where you run, love to run. And was that for fun? Was that something you want to do more of? Go into ownership in racing? I think you're part owner in some other racing teams as well at different levels.
Yeah, I have World of Outlaws teams. I have 5 different USAC teams. But buying the racetrack was something that was kind of life after driving, I guess, for me, and some place for me to be a part of that I can still be a part of racing without necessarily having to be behind the steering wheel. So there's no pension plans, there's no retirement plans for drivers. You pretty much have to take everything you make and do your own retirement plan. And for me, buying a speedway that I really am passionate about was something that made perfect sense for us. It came at the right time. And most of all, the people that owned it, the Earl and Bernice Baltus family, they came to me and said, we really think you would be good for this facility. So having their vote of confidence was something that really pushed me to make that decision.
When you say the drivers don't have their own pension, we've seen recent contract making big news with Kurt Busch, Jamie McMurray. There isn't a union, which may be a bad word to even bring up amongst, but other professional athletes have it at this high level, whether it's safety or pension or insurance and things like that. Do you see that evolving over time as the sport continues to grow?
No, I think there's been times when that's been tried, and NASCAR has pretty much put their foot down and said, if you want to race here, you won't join something like that. But I don't think it's necessary at this level. I mean, I think everybody's contracts, the drivers, if they're wanted by the car owners, the car owners are going to figure out a way of making the drivers happy and vice versa. So, I don't think it's a bad thing of what's been going on here. I mean, the drivers have to take care of themselves, because I can promise you, as much as I love Joe Gibbs and as much as he cares about me as a person, the day that I quit driving for him, I mean, he's going to be moving on to the next guy and taking care of that person. And, I'll still be friends with him, but at that point, I mean, that's where it's going to stop. So, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, this is not a sport like baseball that, you sit half the inning on the bench and every day when we get in a race car, that may be the last day that we're on this earth. So you got to take care of yourself, and the drivers have to take care of themselves, and the car owners have to take care of themselves. So yeah, it's been big news lately, but at the same time, it's nothing more than business. And once the business side's done, then they can get back to doing what they really want to do, and that's worry about trying to win races, win championships.
All right, we'll continue with Tony Stewart, talk about being back home in Indiana, and also is it a bad boy thing or just him speaking his mind? We'll address that when we come back on CMI.
Also coming up.
That's the biggest day of my life at this point. I mean, to be able to win at the Brickyard is something that I've dreamed of as a little kid.
Plus,
do they play favorites in NASCAR?
NASCAR's kind of become the babysitter. I mean, guys don't have to be accountable for what they do anymore.
you're watching the Chris Myers Interview with Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart, a native Hoosier, his dream comes true. Tony Stewart wins the All-State 400 at the Brickyard. Let the party begin.
Folks, there's one happy race car driver.
Welcome back. We're with Tony Stewart, and it was great to watch, knowing your appreciation, your home state, your love for racing at the Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis. Talk about, it's one thing to win championships, but to win big races and races that are important to you, the driver, that one really hit home.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest day of my life at this point. I mean, to be able to win at the Brickyard is something that I've dreamed of as a little kid, and I remember leaving school at 3 o'clock and rushing home in the month of May to turn the TV on and see who was going fast at Indy during the month of May. So to finally have got that monkey off our back and won at Indy, I mean, that's something that, no matter what happens the rest of my life, I finally accomplished that goal. So it's not going to haunt my dreams anymore.
And people, I think, are aware now, but you actually moved back home recently to the house you grew up in instead of being in Charlotte, or the hub of where NASCAR is. May be a little bit more difficult logistically, but that had to just it was better for you in your life, obviously.
Yeah, it's worked out great. I mean, we knew that being that far away, really hasn't been that big of a drama because the driver schedules are so busy now with appearances and testing and interviews and this and that we're really not home that much anyway.
Your father, starting you at a young age, a competitive spirit, is that where that came from? And you were 7, I guess, when you started driving, racing competitively?
Yeah, my dad was one of those guys that, he wanted me to be very focused. You're a 7, 8-year-old kid that's starting into your racing career, and in between go-kart races, your buddies would be out, playing around and running around and throwing rocks and this and that, and my dad always wanted me at the go-kart and always wanted me paying attention to what was going on. And I think that's helped me in my career. But
you do enjoy it, but yet the cup level, on your day off, you'd still be out, and you are, racing somewhere with friends, right, at a dirt track?
Absolutely. Whether it's a dirt late model or, a 360 wing sprint car or USAC teams or outlaw team, I'm always going to do something. That's how much I love racing. I could go take weekends off or weekdays off and go to the beach or go to the Bahamas or do some of the other things that some of the other drivers do, but I really love racing that much to where that's what I want to do. If I'm not racing, I want to be a part of it somewhere else.
And I think some people think your candor is a problem, but I think it's refreshing in a sport where a lot of guys just get out of the car and say, that's just racing and we're buddies, and when there's competitiveness out on the track. And you've gone through, as people, it's been well documented, whether it's been fines or things like that. How do you view that? Have you had to still be yourself, but kind of hold back sometimes what you'd really like to say?
Sure. But it's, you look at the risk versus rewards, and I think people deserve honest answers if they get honest questions, and I think they deserve to see our honest emotions. But at the risk of people getting upset over it and having to do media on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday the following week of having to defend and explain why you did or said something, it's just a lot easier to just kind of say what everybody wants to hear and go home and now have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off and do the things that I want to do versus having to listen to somebody that's upset about something I said. So, I guess I just got to the point where I got tired of fighting the fight. If it's really that important, I'll still fight the fight, trust me. But the things that aren't going to change, and even if you're right, you're not going to change people's minds. It's a lot easier just to hold your opinion back and be able to retain some of that personal life again.
Can you really let it go when a guy just does something blatantly wrong out on the track? Because again, like you said, it's not just a race. A life is on the line here. Can you really forgive that week and forget, or do you need to directly talk to that guy, or do you say, I'll get a chance to? There's payback down the road somewhere.
Well, I've always thought it was kind of funny. I got put on probation and fined for running into guys after the races are over when you're not affecting their outcome, you're not affecting their points, you're not affecting their prize money, you're not affecting their team's prize money, but you get your point across after the race, where some guys have taken it into their hands during a race and directly affected their points, their prize money, their team's prize money, and the outcome of their day. But NASCAR doesn't fine you for that. It's something I don't really understand. NASCAR's kind of become the babysitter. Guys don't have to be accountable for what they do anymore. It's the guy that has to worry about it. It's the guy that retaliates now.
Do they play favorites in NASCAR?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
But I think they're very big on guys not losing their temper if something happens and retaliating. I think that's where they step into it. But the great thing about them is they're very consistent with what they do. That if you do certain things, you're going to be penalized for it, and that's something that's important to the drivers and teams to know, that a sanctioning body is going to be consistent with their decisions.
Yeah, we love it, fans. The emotion.
There's a portion of the people that say they love it, but you still have those people that whether you're right or wrong, they dislike you, so they're going to use that against you, and that's what keeps guys like us from speaking our mind a lot of times. It's just not worth it. People that you're never ever going to see in your lifetime, calling to your sponsors or writing to your sponsors, I'm never going to come to your store again, and things like that. That's what takes the emotion out of it for the drivers, and if that's the reaction that they give your sponsors, you can't do that. So. It's kind of a reality check for everybody involved. It's the risk versus reward syndrome.
We'll continue with Tony Stewart, his greatest rival on the track, and chasing the Indy 500 dream when we come back.
Also coming up.
How do you handle the health factor, the fear factor?
In the back of your mind that the dangers are there, but I can get on the freeway and the same danger's there.
Plus,
is marriage, children, is that too far down the road for you?
It's something that I've not conquered in my life as far as knowing how to do it the right way.
Coming up on the Chris Myers Interview with Tony Stewart.
You are a lightning rod when people see you at the track.
It's kind of like pro wrestling. I mean, there can't be a good guy without a bad guy. There has to be a bad guy for there to be a good guy.
Also ahead, just how long does this 34-year-old veteran plan on racing?
You still want to keep going. You still want to keep winning races. There's always another race that you want to win somewhere, someplace, sometime.
That's next on CMI, the Chris Myers Interview.
Welcome back. We're talking with Tony Stewart. I remember once you got upset with me when I mentioned on a Fox broadcast fans booing when you were introduced. But like Jeff Gordon gets it. I mean, different drivers get it. And even Dale Earnhardt, the late great, said, hey, it means they care. You are a lightning rod when people see you at the track, whether they're Tony Stewart, Home Depot 20-car lovers, or they say, hey, he's the bad guy who bumped this guy or whatever. So how do you handle that? Is that part of the job? Does it motivate you a little bit?
It used to bother me a lot, and then there were times when it motivated me, but now I just kind of blow it off either way. I mean, I focus more on those people that are cheering for me than I used to focus on the people that booed and said, why are they booing? Now I focus on the people that are cheering for us and supporting us. You're not going to please everybody all the time, and it's kind of like pro wrestling. I mean, there can't be a good guy without a bad guy. There has to be a bad guy for there to be a good guy. So if you're not their good guy, you have to be their bad guy.
People care. Who's your greatest rival on the track?
I don't know that I really
change?
have.
I mean, could that change from week to week?
Oh yeah, I mean,
we've seen it.
If you have a problem with somebody, that guy instantly becomes your rival. But the guy that always seems to come to mind is Jeff Gordon. I mean, Jeff and I get along fine, and the media's blown it out of proportions when we've not got along fine. But Jeff and I always have a way of working things out. But what they see is two other of the marquee drivers in the series. Right. Getting into it, and that's what they run for months after something happens, and well after Jeff and I have settled incidents. But I guess Jeff's one of those guys that I respect probably more than anybody in the circuit from the standpoint of how he deals with the fans, the media, the sanctioning body, how he conducts himself. I mean, he does it probably better than anybody, and but he's a great competitor too. And I mean, when you've beat Jeff Gordon on the racetrack, you've beaten one of the best. So. That's why I want to beat him so bad.
And who's your NASCAR idol? Do you have one growing up? Did you look up to one in particular, said I want to drive like him, or was it in any, I guess, racing division?
I mean, I'm like millions of people. I mean, I loved watching Earnhardt, but and liked watching. I mean, I loved it when there were a couple years in a row where he always qualified in the back, and it was fun to see how long it was going to take him to get to the front of the field. I mean, that was some of my best memories of NASCAR racing, but. Another guy that has always been important to us is, somebody that was sponsored by a company in Columbus, Indiana, was sponsored by Cummins Engine Company and was an associate on Mark Martin's car. And I learned so much from Mark, and I think that's something that is struggling with young guys that come in the series now is they don't get a chance to race with guys like Mark Martin and Jeff Burton in the Busch Series and learn how to race at this level to where, a 500-lap race, lap 100, lap 200 really don't mean a lot. So, the give and take. I don't think drivers in this era have learned a lot about the give and take like it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
You're the one who had the most success doing the double, the Coke 600 later in the day, and the Indy 500, finishing in the top 10 in both of those. So really running competitively. Others have dabbled in it. The Indy 500 is, you talked about the Brickyard 400, but the Indy 500, is that a dream of yours? Is that what you would like to accomplish? Can that happen one day for Tony Stewart? Sure
it can. I mean, we've learned to never say never, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, as long as I'm doing the Nextel Cup Series with Joe Gibbs Racing and Home Depot, I mean, I've committed to the guys that I won't try to do the double again. And now, with the start time of Indy being moved up an hour or moved back an hour,
okay.
So it makes it more difficult for us to do anyway. So the logistics of it are wrong. We had good luck the 2 years that we ran there of not having a problem. But if something happened and I got hurt, I've got we have almost 300 people at Joe Gibbs Racing now that depend on me to be there. We have over 350,000 store associates at Home Depot that expect me to be there and be 100% when I get in that car. So
It would have to
I
be
don't want
after,
to jeopardize it.
after your Cup days are over.
Absolutely.
Then. You mentioned safety earlier in the broadcast. Obviously, you're over fear. I know Daytona, you were in a spectacular crash. You've been on, caught fire, burned before. How do you? People may not be able to relate to how fast you're going and the temperatures and the speeds and the danger that you're in. So how do you handle the health factor, the fear factor?
Easy. I mean, I think about having to get in a car, drive an hour to work each day in rush hour traffic, sit in a cubicle all day with no windows, and look at a computer screen all day, and then think of driving an hour back home in rush hour traffic with people on cell phones and people that aren't paying attention, and sit there and think, I'd much rather risk getting hurt, getting burned in a fire, doing what I love to do and competing with the best drivers in the country than I would have to worry about that. So it's very easy to overcome that fear.
Yeah, and so mentally you're comfortable with who and where you're racing
Absolutely.
with.
I mean, I've been doing it for so long that it's just a way of life for me. It's not, you know in the back of your mind that the dangers are there, but I can get on the freeway and the same danger's there in reality. So you just really don't think about it. I mean, you go out and do what you love to do.
Do you see yourself, and I know it's down the road maybe, since you're involved, owning a Cup team at some point?
I'll be honest. I mean, with the politics of this sport, I don't see myself owning any kind of team in NASCAR. I mean,
really?
And it's a lot of responsibility.
Right.
It's
You
a lot
really
of hard
like
work and a lot of responsibility, and I'm just not sure that I'm up for that at this level. I mean, I enjoy my USAC teams. I enjoy my World of Outlaws team, but I've watched my buddy Kevin Harvick organize his truck team, organize his Busch team. It takes a lot of time and dedication, where my involvement with my USAC teams and my involvement with my Cup team, I don't have to be involved daily, day in and day out, where Kevin and Delana have to be involved day in and day out with their race teams to make sure that everything's going all right.
Yeah, and I know you have a lot between the ownership of the track and smoked barbecue sauce, which is very good, I can attest, and all the other responsibilities. Home life, do you have time? Is marriage, children, is that too far down the road for you?
No, trust me, it's in the front of my mind. I mean, I'm 34 years old, and I'm getting to the age where I'm ready to slow down and start a family. So, hopefully that'll happen soon. But if not, we'll take it day at a time too. I mean, it's something that I've not conquered in my life as far as knowing how to do it the right way. So, trying to figure that out.
Boy, that'll keep you competitive. All right, finally, Tony, would another championship in NASCAR, would that change your view of how much more you want to race or what other things you'd like to do?
No, not at all. I mean, once you win, you want to win more.
Okay.
So it's not a situation where if I won another championship, I would say, I've done it twice now. I don't have anything else to prove. You still want to keep going. You still want to keep winning races. There's always another race that you want to win somewhere, someplace, sometime in some type of car. So, I think a lot of it's going to depend on NASCAR, and depends on how much the demands on our time keep rising.
All right, well, I appreciate your time in this, and good luck. All right, it's always great talking to you.
Thanks, brother.
All right, appreciate it. Tony Stewart, we thank you for watching here on CMI. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Tune in next week when Chris sits down with USC head coach Pete Carroll. Find out what it's like to go from the NFL scrap heap to the top of the college football mountain on the next episode of CMI, the Chris Myers Interview.